If you are new, I keep the show plain and human. No drama strings, no fake countdowns. I am a geek who loves space, and I have just enough stubbornness to keep rumor from eating my brain. I also collect smart friends, a mate in Canberra who volunteers around the Deep Space Communication Complex, a cousin in Perth with mates at the observatory, 2 contacts who do public outreach across the Pacific with emails ending at NASA, a contractor at the Jet Propulsion Lab who fixes typos in public pages and refuses to break rules. We talk in Discords and Slack rooms and in boring email threads. We share links and screenshots. We do not cross lines. We keep trust. Tonight is a hard night to stay boring. The guest is not a person. It is a visitor from outside our solar system. Catalog tag 3I Atlas. 3rd confirmed interstellar object on record. First was the disputed cigar from years back. Second was the comet, with the long, clean tail. This one arrived with a quiet profile and a safe path. That was the story for months. Then the numbers shifted. Not once, not noise, a repeated step that refuses to settle. I will explain terms as they come up. When astronomers talk about a residual, they mean the difference between where an object should be according to the current orbit and where telescopes actually measure it. The difference is usually small and messy. For comets, sunlight warms the surface, gas vents, dust drifts, and the object gets a tiny push. Add those non-gravitational pushes into the math and the line tightens again. That is the normal dance. Last night the dance got square shoes. The difference walked in one direction, paused, then walked again. 2 observatories far apart logged the same set of steps. I heard about it while rinsing a pan. My group chat out of Siding Spring lit up with a plot. Points that refused to sit on the predicted curve. I sent the image to my friend Leah in Canberra. She does careful work near the big dishes and has a low tolerance for breathless heads. Her reply landed short and rough. Looks controlled. Then a second message with the boring alternatives. Fragment, jet switching, solar wind gust, instrument drift, and a final line. Timing does not match any of those. I do not throw the alien's flag. I have mocked that instinct for years on this mic. But my hand shook on the doorknob when I walked from the kitchen into the studio. I powered down the humming bar fridge on the same power strip as my mixer, opened the dusty window a crack to let the heat out, hit record, no intro music, no sponsor read, just me, the room, and a clock that always runs 2 minutes slow. You hear the scooter shop downstairs before midnight on most nights, a wrench on concrete, a laugh that hits the tin roller door and comes back into my floorboards. Tonight, even that routine noise feels thin. The city outside keeps running. Planes on approach to Kingsford Smith draw a white path across the sky and vanish into gray. A bus brakes at the corner. The noodle fryer kicks out steam. Ordinary life anchors the edges of the frame while I stare at a chart that refuses to act ordinary. Let me ground the timeline. 3I Atlas was discovered mid-year by the Atlas Survey. Hyperbolic path. That word just means it is not bound to our sun. It will not loop back on its own. The early models showed a calm pass through the inner system with a missed distance that sounded comfortable. Not a naked eye visitor. A telescope job. Professionals and serious amateurs take turns. The rest of us enjoy processed images and clean numbers. That was the plan. The new measurements say the plan is not holding. Phones start buzzing. Matt in Parramatta pings me. Desert Fireball Network is awake but quiet, watching. Grace in Hobart logs that her dog is pacing. Could be wind, could be nothing. Owen in Perth says the radio club can record broadbands if I want their archive link later. I tell him yes. Keep timestamps clean. Save raw files. Do not chase every hiss. A public feed from near Coonabarabran pushes fresh stills every few minutes. The object is a small smear with a faint tail. Pretty, in a restrained way. The image is not the story. The story is the position. The plot refuses to sit still. I run the newest points against the public orbit and watch the line peel away to the side. Cross-track shift. That just means sideways across the expected path. Add a nudge there and the future position slides. Add another later and the timeline changes again. Important for anyone half listening while you fold washing or clean up from dinner, we do not have a radio signal from the object. No beacon, no data stream, no repeating pattern that passes basic tests. If there is control, it is quiet. If there is communication, it is not in anything my people have access to. When I say controlled, I'm only talking about motion that behaves like decisions. That is it. No ship, no crew, no drama. Motion that waits and then moves again. Friends inside public outreach rooms remind me that official pages carry the last confirmed orbit and will not change until the weight of evidence is high. That is not a cover. That is discipline. Space agencies are not going to push midnight updates because a few amateurs have indigestion. They will sleep, check, and post when their internal process says post. That is how the grown-ups do it. I respect it. I still record in case the night tilts. I take a second to introduce myself the way I do when new listeners arrive in the middle of a wild thread. I am 40. I grew up near Newcastle. I learned the sky in cold paddocks with a Dobsonian that I bought from a bloke who wanted beer money. A mentor took us to parks when I was 12. We stood on the visitor platform. The dish turned. The ground had a tremor that went straight into my shoes. The guide used the name Muriang and explained the Wiradjuri story attached to it. That memory is a straight line through my head even now. Life since then has been warehouses, second jobs, and an obsession with clean sources. And this little studio. And this microphone. My wife Hannah is a nurse at Royal Prince Alfred. She works early and late and a lot in between. She texts me to drink water and not lose my mind to doom posts. She has stood next to me in worse storms than a wobbly orbit fit. We do not have kids. We have a tired Kelpie named Ruby who sleeps at my feet and wakes when the lane door rolls. That is our house. That is our anchor. The next plot lands on my screen. The residuals jump again by a small measured amount. The best new fit pulls the expected closest approach earlier by a slice. The distance still sounds large in everyday terms. The part that matters is the refusal of the model to stay glued. Even with generous non-gravitational terms, the computer keeps spitting the future back at us with a shrug. My New Zealand friends drop into the shared folder with independent points. Their curve shifts in the same direction. I send the screenshot to Leah. She replies with a clip sentence. You have a real step. Steps are not a smoking gun. Comets vent unevenly. Pieces break off. The sun spits wind. All of that can move a small body. The reason my chest tightens is the regularity. The pushes happen with a neatness that refuses to marry with spin cycles or solar gust logs. The pattern reads like intent. I hate that sentence. I say it anyway. Then I tuck it behind a dozen cautions. We are not declaring intelligence. We are respecting a shape that keeps repeating. People write in with good faith questions. Could it be an outgassing jet that lines up with a convenient spin phase? Yes. Confirmation would be brightness changes that repeat with that period and a jet profile in the tail. Could it be a fragment event? Yes. Confirmation would be multiple sources in the coma and a photometry slope that suits a break. Could it be software? Always. That is why we cross with other teams and force the pipeline to run different calibrations. The teams are doing that now and still seeing steps. Let us keep this practical for households across Australia in case the night gets spicy. Plug in devices, keep your water jug full, keep fuel above half a tank, keep some cash stashed for card outages, keep medicines topped. Check on neighbors who forget to charge their phones. These habits help in floods, storms, and boring power hiccups. They are not space panic, they are routine adult moves. I will not shame you for doing basic prep. I do the same. I ask anyone with a phone to press it to a window frame and record 30 seconds at the top of each hour. Say city, suburb, and time stamp out loud. Save the files. Do not post yet. If anything odd runs through the air or the building, contact microphones and pressed phones hear it better than human ears. If nothing happens, you still have a simple log. That is science. Real science is patient and slightly dull. Ruby wakes, lifts her head, and stares at the window. I check the lane. A feral cat slips under the dumpster lip and disappears. Ruby huffs and puts her head back on her paws. I log the time out of habit. Years of late shifts trained me to mark unremarkable things so that the remarkable ones stand out later. A teacher in Wagga Wagga emails to ask if she should talk about the object in morning class. She does not want to scare anyone. My answer is yes. Talk about it in plain words. Show the graph of points and the line that tries to hold them. Explain that adults do not know everything. Show how people change their minds without shame when evidence lands. Kids can handle that more easily than adults when you present it without ego. Leah's team in Canberra shares an early note from an acoustics lab. They are not calling anything, but they are setting up to record wide bands across the night. If you hear me use the phrase environmental tone, that is what I mean. A widespread sound or vibration that moves through structures and air without a clear origin. Not a message, not a signal, a tone. The distinction matters. People throw the word signal at everything. I will not. The public telescope stills roll in and out. Brightness holds within normal scatter. Nothing fancy in the coma. Tail looks thin and consistent with a distant active body. The story remains the motion, not the appearance. The motion keeps demonstrating decisions. That sentence lands heavier every time I test it out loud. I keep breathing and repeat the part we must not forget. The missed distance is still large in every fit we trust. The concerns are about modeling and intent, not about a confirmed collision. I incorporate more of the human texture because that keeps a long night from turning into a spreadsheet. Rafi in Adelaide runs a scope off a backyard mount and offers me raw stacks in the morning. Jess in Darwin reports sauna weather and a sky full of haze and declares herself commander of the freezer ice tray. Dom in Geelong says his retired Navy dad has the same set jaw he used the week the ship went hard through the bite. Tea is brewing in that house. That is a good house. Perth drops a message from my cousin's mate. He says his first reduction looked too neat, so he ran a second pipeline. Same step, different tool chain. That trims one whole branch of doubt. He adds a caution about guiding stars and seeing conditions. He would be disappointed in himself if he did not list those. I love scientists for that instinct, even when they are not paid to be scientists. Dad calls from Newcastle. He never rings during a show unless something is wrong. He asks whether he should pick up Mum and drive down. I tell him not to burn petrol for nothing. If anything flips, I will give him plain instructions. For now, he should sleep. He says he will pretend. We say the dumb family lines we always say. That small ritual steadies my head. I check the voltage meter plugged into the same strip as the mixer. The number is steady. I write it in a side log. I do this without thinking now. Long years of building cheap rigs taught me that environment notes save you when gremlins show up. A clear laydown for anyone piecing this together at breakfast. Early orbit said safe pass. New points show stepwise control. There is no public advisory from the big agencies yet. There is no alien message. There is not even a reliable radio feature attached to the object. What has changed is that the mathematical fit refuses to behave unless you add timed pushes. That moves the confidence window on closest approach. It also scrambles planning if you are the sort who plans flybys. I know there are smart people doing rough sums right now in rooms that do not sleep. I am not one of them. I tell stories and keep the public calm. I address the conspiracy part of my own brain and yours. Yes, a human black project would be cleaner to carry in your head than a visitor with its own plan. But a human project of this scale would leak. People talk. Not out of malice, because we are social. Because someone tells a partner over pizza who tells a cousin at a barbecue who posts a vague brag on an old forum. The absence of those crumbs pulls my attention away from the secret human option. That is not proof. It is a weight on the scale. A slow high ring reaches the studio. It sits right at the edge of the hearing. I mute the monitor speakers. The ring remains. I step into the hallway. The ring drops. I step back in. The ring returns. I press a small contact mic to the window frame. On the screen, a thin line in a high band appears and drifts a hair. The board meters do not move. The signal is not in the podcast chain. It is in the building. Could be wind on a damp blind. Could be a transformer on the pole humming into the brick. Could be useless. I save a clip. I say what I did out loud so the record stays honest. The chat goes noisy. Wollongong, Gosford, Maitland, Bendigo. Half say they hear a ring in rooms near windows and doors. Half say there is nothing and that their pets are snoring. That split is exactly how a messy world behaves. Leah calls and gives me permission to put her on speaker. She reports the acoustic lab in Canberra is logging narrow high lines at their site and a low-band component below human hearing. She reminds us both that wind can turn a building into a dull instrument and that trains, trucks, and factories can create long-distance noise we do not expect. Then she admits the timing is bad for coincidence. We both sit with that. New Zealand posts 3 fresh positions from a university team working late. Their best fit only stabilizes when they add 3 discrete pushes over 2 hours. That lines up with Perth and the Canberra math group. 3 strings pulled in parallel. Small differences aside, the structure agrees. The distance to Earth in all fits is still large. The event that interests us is the refusal to stay predictable. This is the part of the show where a flashy host would start naming intentions and declaring contact. I am not that host. We have nothing that spells language. We have no handshake. We have motion that looks like deliberate piloting. If that is all we ever get, it still rewrites a lot of dinner table arguments. But let us not sprint past the data. This is a night for patience. Hannah texts from a quiet corridor. She says the ward is calm. No surge in weird cases. She reminds me to eat. I crack a protein bar and chew through the chalk, sip water, and try not to think about the time I forgot to eat and nearly blacked out on air. Not tonight. Tonight the body is fuel and the brain is a good dog that sits when told. Before I wrap this segment, I want to walk through a low-tech checklist if the tone rises or the grid flickers while you are at home. Move to an interior room. Sit. Breathe in and out with counts. Record 30 seconds with a phone pressed to a window frame or a table leg. State your suburb and time. Keep pets inside. Do not call emergency numbers unless someone is actually in trouble. Hot tea helps. So does talking to a friend and keeping the conversation grounded in what you can see and hear. If the power dips and returns, do not jump in the car and make the roads worse. Grid crews do their job faster when the streets are clear. Networks usually self-heal faster than our nerves. If your router restarts, give it a minute before you add your own panic to the mix. The public feed pushes another image. Brightness steady, tail steady. Perth sends 3 new points. Canberra math fits them with a small push near the top of the hour. New Zealand nods in a side message. That gives us 3 sites across water and land, agreeing on the same structure. I summarize in one sentence for anyone who will only remember that. We are watching an interstellar body perform repeated small course changes without any detectable transmission. People want intent. If the intent was to hit us, the path would tighten toward us and stay there. You would see a change in speed management that points through our orbit rather than around it. You would see people in certain uniforms start to move equipment. You would see not only astronomers, but also power grid people and aviation people shift tone in public. That is not here yet. If the intent is curiosity, then this is a tour. A fast smell of the inner system, a look at our radio noise, a pass that proves a capability. That is speculation. I label it that way and leave it on the side of the plate instead of the middle. The ring in my room slides up by a small interval. Not much, enough to change the feel in my jaw. The board still shows nothing. The contact mic display shows a few narrow lines spreading apart. I mark the time. I say the words out loud. No drama, just an entry in the log. Outside, a bin lid drops and the birds in the street trees stir, then settle. The lane falls back to quiet. Leah calls again. Her voice carries the clipped edge that shows up when math refuses to fold neatly. She says the acoustic lab now has confirmation from Melbourne. High lines and a low thump in both places. She is careful with language. Environmental tone, not signal. Widespread, not universal. No identified source. Sensors will run all night. She asked me to repeat the recording advice. I do, 3 times with suburb and time and phone against the frame. I speak the city roll for the human touch. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Hobart, Darwin, Canberra, Alice Springs, Wagga Wagga, Coonabarabran, Launceston, Townsville, Cairns, Broken Hill, Tamworth, Fremantle, Wollongong, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. Every small town that sits between those names. You are in my head as lights on a simple map, and I'm in a cluttered room above scooters and noodles trying to be useful. Time to set the pin for the split. 3I8less, an interstellar object, has begun a sequence of small course changes that our best teams can only fit by adding timed pushes to the model. There is no contact. There is no message. There is a growing number of reports of a thin tone in buildings and a low-band component on lab sensors. These may be unrelated, and I will keep that caveat glued to the front of the file. The distance to Earth in all credible fits remains large tonight. The story is not a collision. The story is a path we cannot predict, and a world that is paying attention. Back from the short stretch, water bottle refilled, window open another hand width. Ruby has moved to the mat by the door and keeps looking at me for cues. I tell her we are fine. She does not believe me. Which is fair. You know who I am and where I am by now, so I will cut the preamble. We roll straight back into it. 3I8less is still stepping. The Perth points and the New Zealand points agree. Leah's Canberra group has posted a cautious line saying the best fits require discrete pushes at 3 times over roughly 2 hours with small spreads. That is careful language for the thing you and I both feel in our bones. Something is driving the object. I'm keeping the show on the same rails. Clean terms, real places, no monster movie voice. I also promise more drama if the night earned it. The night is earning it. I am not going to pretend calm where there is none. I will put the fear where it belongs, and I will name it in straight words. Quick roll across Australia because this is starting to sprawl beyond my little room. Sydney, Inner West. Quiet streets, a thin ring in structures that comes and goes. North Shore, reports of dogs hiding in bathrooms and kids asking why the glasses in the cupboard buzz for a second and then stop. Newcastle and Lake Macquarie. One caller says the patio doors whispered against the frame without wind. Canberra. Leah's lab has a steady high line and an infrasound band that rides the noise floor like a stubborn tide. Perth. 2 backyard mounts and 1 university telescope still feeding numbers. Adelaide. A handful of calls about a noise that lives inside the head rather than in the air. Darwin. Humidity, storm buildup, and 1 caller reporting a tone during a lull between 2 gusts. Hobart. A radio tech on a tied-up research vessel hears buzz on a band that is normally dead at this hour. Melbourne. An acoustics contact confirms what Canberra sees. That is the national picture in short. I am not going to use the word signal. I am going to use the word tone. Environmental tone. Widespread, not universal. Variable. Source unknown. That is the vocabulary that keeps us all honest. Let me give you a tangible anchor. Australia runs on 50 Hz mains power. The grid tries to keep it steady because a lot of machines expect it. When the frequency droops below a threshold, protection systems start to trip circuits off to protect the whole from collapsing. That is called under-frequency load shedding. You do not need to remember the term. Just remember that if the power dips and then the lights return, it does not mean anyone did anything wrong. It means the system did its job. If this tone is coupling into the environment the way some of you are recording, I would not be surprised to see a few minor grid wobbles as transformers and protection gear get grumpy. If that happens, you stay put. You do not jump in the car and gum the roads. Speaking of roads, Transport for New South Wales has not put out any unusual guidance yet. Aviation is normal according to the public boards. I called a mate who works nights near Kingsford Smith. He says arrival stacks look regular. If you hear me say the word ground stop, that means aircraft are told to stay put. We are not there. I will say it clearly if that changes. New data just hit from Perth. Small movement again. Direction holds. Best fit moves the closest approach window earlier by another slice. Still far. Still the same challenge. Unpredictability. I can hear the question in your head. Could this bend into a pass near Earth's orbit rather than a clean miss? Yes, in theory. That is why we watch. That is why the fits matter. Right now, the family of solutions that pass near Earth in any concerning way are still low probability. I am not going to milk fear for ratings. I would rather lose listeners than lie for a spike. Hannah sends a photo from the hospital break room. 2 nurses try to nap sitting up. 1 porter plays with a deck of cards. She writes that the ward is steady. Dizziness and tinnitus cases are up a hair, which could be anything. Heat, stress, YouTube panic, or the environmental tone making sensitive people miserable. She says the registrar is reminding everyone to keep language calm. They do not want a self-fulfilling wave of anxiety. I tell her I'm saying the same thing into this microphone across town. Let us be clear about one more thing. If this were a simple comet with outgassing jets, the residuals would respond to a standard set of terms and the changes would smear like fingerprints rather than click into steps like footsteps. We are not seeing fingerprints. We are hearing footsteps. I hate that I just used a comparison. You know my rule. I am breaking it because I need the point to land. This is not natural behavior. We test the boring explanations first. We are past them. Long message from a truckie on the Hume Highway north of Albury. He says the rig's forward dash cam audio track shows moments of ultrasonic whine when the cabin sounds normal. He only noticed after a mate told him to listen for it. He says the dogs at a roadhouse were under tables at the same time, and 2 magpies flew in circles over the grass and then bolted together toward a line of trees. Timestamp provided. That is a good report. Not fancy. Specific. I want to talk about hearing health because we are going to need it. If the tone in your house gets strong, earplugs might blunt it. But not always, because a lot of what we are describing is structure-borne vibration and infrasound that your bones and organs feel even when your ears are insulated. Do not panic. Sit, hydrate. Move away from windows and doors. Breath counts. Help. If you have kids, get them into a game or a job that keeps hands busy. Sorting cutlery. Making a simple Lego build. Drawing the floor plan of the house. I know that sounds silly. It works. Leah is texting fast now. The acoustic lab in Canberra pulled out their old infrasound kit that was used for volcano monitoring. She says the traces are not enormous. They are steady. They show a low-band wave that glues itself to the night and does not care about the wind shifts. She asks me to keep hammering the distinction between tone and message. She says a local politician already tried to turn tone into signal to score a clip. We both swear into phones. Then we get back to work. Aviation update from Brisbane. A pilot friend of a listener sent a short note that the automatic terminal information service is normal and that air traffic control is calm. He adds that if an environmental tone starts to couple into sensors, crews will notice odd readings and will switch to backup procedures that do not care. Pilots train for weird. If you are on a plane right now, your crew has a map for this and 10 more things like it. You are okay. It is just past 1 in the morning. That is the hour when nonsense usually peaks online. I am watching for it. The mod team is killing the worst of the clown posts in the chat. Thank you. I see you doing unpaid work while your own windows hum. I see you stopping the spread of fake clips. That is a civic act. That matters. This is how we keep a city sane. Small, unglamorous actions delivered steadily. Hold on. The narrow ring in my room just climbed by another small step. The contact mic shows lines moving apart by a sliver. The blind cord is trembling again. Ruby stands and does one low bark at the window and then looks at me for orders. I tell her bed. She sits but does not lie down. My stomach does the wrong thing. I ignore it. I keep talking. New Zealand team just dropped a more formal note. It says they cannot stabilize any forward projection without placing pushes at 4 times now, not 3. They list the times in universal time with uncertainties. The push sizes vary. The pauses between them are not equal. That irregularity is the part that kills the tidy natural theories. It looks like testing. I do not like writing that. It is what the numbers say. I'm going to read you something I wrote in a private file a year ago after a guest asked me whether I wanted proof of life in my lifetime. I wrote that I wanted process more than proof. I wanted public rigor to work when it needed to work. I wanted the boring machinery of peer review and cross-checks and independent confirmation to be the hero instead of a single hero with a shaky video. Tonight, I am living that wish. Tonight, the hero is a folder full of plots and calmly worded emails in an old lab in Canberra that dragged a dusty box out of storage and made it sing. Sydney rolls in with a batch of calls from the Inner West, the Shire, and the Hills, pets unsettled. Short buzzing episodes in shelves and window frames. One caller says a neighbor's wind chime sounds wrong, which could be weather or could be the way the tone is coupling into metal. I tell everyone to keep the recordings small and labeled. If you email them to me, include exactly what you used to record, where you placed it, and what time your phone showed. These details let smart people do real comparisons later. Let me speak to people who are not space folk and who tuned in because a friend told them some podcaster is not yelling. You are doing the most important job, staying normal. Normal beats panic. Make a sandwich. Fill a bottle. Check on a neighbor. Put your phone on a charger. Sit on the floor with the kids and build a pillow fort against the wall away from the windows. If you have a grandparent who needs a calm voice, call them now and talk about anything except the tone. You tell them you love them. You talk about the time the dog ate a sock. You make the world small and simple. That keeps heads clear until the grown-ups with badges tell us what to do. Here comes the next set of orbit points. Perth, Canberra, New Zealand. 3 fits run on 3 laptops in 3 rooms far apart. The range of possibilities lip over a threshold that makes my throat go tight. I read the line twice before I say it. The family of solutions now includes passes that are not comfortable. Still not the median case. Still a tail. But the tail is thick enough that responsible people will start to consider alerting their chains. Do not translate that into doom. Translate it into adults moving to the next box on a checklist. Phone lights up. It is Dad again. He is watching the ceiling and listening for a tone that his old ears cannot pick cleanly. He wants to drive down anyway. I tell him the highway is for trucks tonight, not for one man's worry. He says he will stay. He says the house is quiet. He says Mum is snoring and that it is a better sound than any ring in the walls. He hangs up after saying the short, clumsy words we have used in our family for decades. Those words hold me together for another 10 minutes. I have to talk about worst-case planning without turning this into disaster radio. If a close pass happens, and the environmental tone climbs into something that causes genuine trouble, the first wave will be nausea, dizziness, headaches, and disorientation for a slice of the population. Nothing supernatural. Pure physics and biology. High frequencies can make small objects rattle. Low frequencies can mess with balance and pressure. It will not hit everyone. It will feel unfair. People will look fine and then suddenly not fine. That is how this stuff works. Hospitals will see a bump. 000 will get hammered with calls that are not full emergencies. You can help them by taking care of the small stuff at home and only calling for real distress. Do I think we will get that wave? I do not know. I think it is possible. The lab traces and the reports say possible. You prepare for possible and you do not panic. That is the line. Stay on the line. We just crossed another weird marker. Leah says the infrasound band rose by a fraction across Canberra, then fell, then rose again in a neat stare. Melbourne reported the same at almost the same times. Perth saw a lag, which tracks with distance. This coincides with a fresh course step from the object. That is correlation. We do not claim cause yet. I'm putting the 2 lines next to each other in the folder anyway, because the world loves pattern, and this one is hard to ignore. I need to feed you something awful but honest. A listener in Bankstown reports that her dad lost balance and fell against the kitchen bench when the tone rose. He is okay. He is shaken. She wants to drive him to the hospital. I tell her to sit him down, water him, check for any signs that require urgent care, and if he has none, to wait a quarter hour before deciding. Roads full of worried people do more harm than a mild dizzy spell handled at home. She says she will wait. She says thank you. I tell her she is doing a good job. Another call. A small mall in Parramatta had fire alarms chirp without smoke. The system reset on its own. That can happen when tones couple into sensors or when power flickers. The shop staff did the right thing and checked anyway. They sent people out for 10 minutes and then reopened. If you are in a shop and systems chirp, do not argue with the staff. You go outside, you breathe, you wait, you go back in when they say. That is how you keep the world moving without making a bigger mess. My own studio is doing a small chorus of plastic rattles that come and go. The blind taps the glass with a gentle touch and then hangs still. The contact mic shows the same comb of lines drifting. The board meters still show nothing because the microphone chain is not picking up the specific slice where the tone lives. This is a building event more than an audio event. That is why you might not hear it while your shelves hum and your dog hides. I want to name the odd beauty inside all this without going soft. People are doing the ordinary good. A bloke in Fremantle texts that he left 2 spare earplugs in the letterbox for a neighbor. A woman in Hobart says she printed the breath count cue and taped it to the fridge. A kid in Cairns drew a picture of their house with labels saying quiet room and window where the phone goes. These are stupidly small things that change the tide inside a night like this. All right, back to the sky. The speed profile at the object's altitude is a guess now because every step breaks the projection, but the step sizes are not huge. Whatever is steering is not burning hard. It is tapping. Nudge, wait, reevaluate, nudge. That feels surgical. Again, I know I sound like I am telling a story. I am. I am also holding numbers. The formal notes on my screen use cautious verbs. I translate them into human voice so you can keep your feet under you. I'm about to read out something you may not like. The tail of the solution set now includes a pass near the moon's orbit before a turn that could align with a much closer swing by Earth. It is still a tail. The weight is not there. You deserve to know the shape of the range. I will not sit here and pretend that all possibilities are calm. Some of them are not. If this were a human vehicle, that is how I would plan a demonstration pass. Get the moon as a gauge, test Earth's noise, then leave or stay, depending on the plan. That is as far into intent as I will go. We are not mind readers, we are readers of plots. The chat throws me a note that someone on social media is streaming from near parks and using the words, "We have contact." I click. I watch for half a minute. It is a recording of a receiver picking up a satellite downlink noise burst that people get excited about every year anyway. It is not contact. I close the tab. I tell you out loud that it is not contact, so it dies here. Tell your mates to stop forwarding junk while nurses are trying to do handovers. Leah calls. I put her on the board. Her voice is tired. She has not had a proper night off in a week. She says the lab has now integrated infrasound across multiple stations. The stare pattern is in all of them, with correct lags. The high line varies in a way that lines up with the steps as well. She is not saying cause. She is saying the environment is doing a coordinated thing. She also says the Canberra hospitals have started to get a trickle of balance issues. Not huge, noticeable. Staff are prepared. I ask her if she wants me to stop telling people to record the tone. She says keep doing it. No one is going to get hurt by a window recording. She says she is proud of how the public is handling this. I thank her and let her go back to her screens. We just had our first power frequency wobble in the Sydney region according to a listener's home monitor. The lights did not flicker. The number on his gadget drooped for a blink. It recovered. That is consistent with gear choosing to shed a little load to keep the whole thing stable. You may see more of that if the tone keeps climbing. It is not the end of the world. Your fridge motor will not explode. Your laptop will do a little dance and finish what it was doing. A message from Alice Springs says the over-the-horizon radar crowd is very quiet. No leaks. That does not tell us anything. It means professionals are being professional. That is what we want. If I ever tell you defense people are blabbing, it means things are truly on fire. Silence is normal. Discipline is boring and right. Hannah texts a heart. Then she sends, switching to surge plan, all chill. That is hospital language for getting ready for extra patients without closing doors. She says a registrar gave a short talk about dizziness protocols and set up a small corner where non-emergency cases can sit and breathe and sip water and wait for checks. That is how you avoid clogging triage. I want to hug that registrar. I cannot. I can tell all of you that professionals plan for nights like this and do not lose their heads. The ring in my studio jumps again. This time it is not subtle. The blind cord vibrates in a clean way for 3 seconds. The travel mug on the desk ticks against the wood. My teeth feel strange. The board meters still show nothing because the mic chain is band limited and the tone lives outside. I put the contact mic on the window frame again and watch the software produce a ridiculous ladder of narrow lines that slide very slowly upward. I save a clip with a timestamp in full words. At the same moment, the phone lines blow up. Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, Hobart, Melbourne, Darwin, Adelaide, Canberra. Reports of a piercing sound that you cannot point to. Reports of animals bolting. Reports of kids crying and then getting very quiet with blank faces. One caller in Bondi says his neighbor dropped to his knees and stayed there with his palms flat on the tile. He did not pass out. He just froze. Then he got up and apologized and said he felt a wave pass through his head. Again, not supernatural. Biology. Pressure waves sometimes hit people differently. The chat moderator posts the words record, date, breathe in a repeating line. People pick it up and type it back. Small, dumb mantra, useful. I say it out loud with them. A City Dispatch scanner feed from Sydney's west reports a brief spike in alarm calls with no contact caller flags, which often means someone dialed and then could not speak or hung up. Ambulance crews start driving and then cancel when the caller calls back and says he is okay. Not mass panic, not collapse. Just a human system feeling a stressor and doing what human systems do. For those who tuned in late, we have no message, no language, no handshake. The thing in the sky is pushing itself in small, deliberate steps. Labs on the ground are recording an environmental tone that rises and falls and may match those steps. The passes are still far, but the window keeps moving. I am not going to pretend I know how this ends. I am also not going to sit here and let fear write the script. If you are having a hard time, you are normal. If you feel steady, you are also normal. If you feel tough and want to go out into the street to prove something, do not. Stay in. Keep your street open for people who actually need to move. Make your world small and controlled. The big world will keep spinning with or without one bloke's chest beating outside a kebab shop. Leah texts that a colleague heard a line from a European group. Small satellites are reporting attitude control systems working a bit harder than usual. That could be nothing. That could be the tone coupling into sensors. That could be people babying their birds because the night is loud. Do not make it more than it is. Do not make it less either. We are going to do a 60-second quiet segment where I say nothing except a time marker every 15 seconds. I want you to record your window or table for the whole minute. Then we will come back and talk. Ready? Time is 1:43 in the morning. Recording starts now. 15 seconds. 30 seconds. 45 seconds. 1 minute. Save your file. Name it with your suburb and the time in full words. Thank you. Back to our usual flow. The grid does a small shiver. My voltage meter shows a dip that returns. The room lights do not blink. The mixer hum changes pitch for a moment. Then it is gone. Sydney listeners send similar notes from 3 different suburbs. One from the Central Coast, one from the Hawkesbury. The behavior is consistent with automatic systems trimming load to keep frequency steady. This is boring engineering saving the day. I thank every anonymous person who ever sat in a meeting and argued for building those layers into our hardware. I need to say something personal because the night is long and your host is not a robot. My hands are shaking now. I keep them on the desk to steady them. I am scared. Not of aliens, not of lights in the sky, but of people turning on each other because the air hums. I have seen that before. Different crisis. Same human itch to point and yell. We are not doing that. Not on my stream. If you want that, the internet is large and full of loud people. Go there. If you stay here, you hold the line with me. We do clear sentences and real care. Okay, back to the plot. The three newest points reduced to a small push that trims the timeline again. The median is still safe. The tail grows teeth. If you are a planner in an agency, you are now writing two scripts, one for an undramatic end, one for a close pass with environmental stress. You will practice both and hope to use the first. You do this while drinking too much coffee and trying not to think about your own kids asleep at home. I have friends doing that work. I respect them for not texting me with gossip. A fisherman out of Wollongong says the sea had a hard-to-name surface pattern for a few minutes. Not wind, not a boat. The ripples went the wrong way. He says his mate laughed at him and then stopped laughing and said he saw it too. They both sounded sheepish in the message. That is how honest men talk when they do not have a box to put a thing into. If you are hearing this, thank you for telling me, even when it makes you feel silly. We just got our first official emergency alert text in parts of New South Wales and the ACT. The wording is short and careful. It says, public information, environmental tone being recorded across multiple regions. If you feel unwell, sit down, breathe slowly, and wait. Do not call emergency services unless you are in distress. More at the official site. That is good messaging. That is the opposite of panic. That is the state saying, we see it, we are on it, stay calm. Hannah replies, we got the text. Ward calm, we have water, staff solid. Then she sends a photo of a whiteboard with 3 columns, balance, headache, faint. Under each are tick marks from the last hour. The numbers are not huge. The board looks like a school tally rather than a crisis. That picture does more for my head than any graph on my screen. I take a breath. I'm going to say the words out loud now so they become a thing I have said and not a thing bouncing around inside me. It is possible that 3I-8less is a controlled object that is approaching for a deliberate pass near Earth and that the environmental tone is part of that pass. It is possible that we will ride out the tone, record a lot of data, and watch the object leave. It is possible that we will not like the way the close pass feels. It is possible that the pass is not close at all, and that this is all a coincidence of a loud environment. All those doors remain open. We are trying to close the wrong ones. We keep failing. We keep trying. That is science. The ring in my room climbs again. It cuts into the jaw now. It does not hurt. It takes my balance and shakes it. I sit in the chair with both feet flat on the floor. The blind cord hums. The travel mug vibrates gently in a way that is more annoying than any noise has the right to be. I tell you every detail because the more I say, the more people will recognize what is happening in their own rooms and not feel alone. Ruby whines. She moves to the bathroom doorway and stands there because she likes enclosed spaces when thunderstorms hit. I give her a hand signal. She obeys. She lies down in the cool room and stares at me with ears up. Dogs are simple in their loyalty. This is not a story about dogs, but I'm grateful for one old dog who keeps listening. Leah calls again. I put her on speaker. She says the lab's infrasound line is now accompanied by a superimposed ripple. She says it looks like a slowly changing interference pattern. She is careful and says, looks, not is. She says she has one eye on orbital updates and one eye on the noise. She nearly laughs at the word noise because none of this is noise anymore. She asked me to read the checklist again. Hydrate, interior room, record, label, breathe, check neighbors. I read it. It feels silly to read it again. Repetition makes it stick. We are getting international reports now via friends overseas. Berlin, Warsaw, Ankara, Tel Aviv. A steady tone. Dogs panicking. Birds leaving trees. A few glass panels breaking in old shop fronts. We see a pattern. Older buildings resonate more. Newer glazing seems to handle it better. Nothing apocalyptic. Annoying and spooky. Enough to make the wrong people run out of pubs and argue in the street because anxiety needs a target. I keep the rules on this show. No villains invented from thin air. No scapegoats. If you feel the pull to blame them, whoever your them is, sit down, drink water, recognize the urge. Do not act on it. Nothing about this night is a plot to steal your phone or your job. A body from outside our system is pushing itself in ways we do not understand, and the air is singing. That is the whole story. At 1:59 in the morning, Australia crosses another line. The Space Agency's public page posts a midnight update that says, in plain language, that the interstellar object's path is displaying non-standard acceleration consistent with discrete events and that forward projections are being revised continually. It says there is no impact prediction. It says agencies will coordinate environmental monitoring. I read it out loud. I thank whoever wrote it for not hiding behind foggy words. Kingsford Smith holds arrivals for 5 minutes to reshuffle spacing. That is not a ground stop. That is just air traffic control smoothing the flow. A pilot friend says the cabin feels fine, and that he would tell his own family to fly if they had a ticket tonight. He adds that the tone is annoying in the jet bridge but gone inside the aircraft. That checks out. Airframes are designed to kill lots of different vibrations. We are going to do one more 60-second quiet segment. I will say the time every 20 seconds this round. Record if you want. If you do not, sit with me in the quiet knowing that thousands of other people are doing the exact same thing. That is not poetry. That is how the night is. Time is 2:03 in the morning. Recording starts now. 20 seconds. 40 seconds. 1 minute. Save your file. Thank you. The tone eased during that minute here. I want to know if that matches your place. If it does, the labs will likely see it too with the correct lag. I'm seeing more reports of fish near the surface in rivers and estuaries. That could be temperature. That could be normal. I flag it because multiple people who do not know each other mentioned it with close times. If you are going to walk to a riverbank to look, do not. Not tonight. Do not give emergency services another headache. Tell me in the morning if you live there already and saw it while pouring coffee. This part will be hard to describe without making it bigger than it is. The tone has depth now. It is not a single high ring. It is a thin blade with a low body under it. My stomach does a small roll. My ears feel full. The blind does not move. The window frame hums. The travel mug ticks. The contact mic trace shows a forest of thin lines with a slow slide upward that looks like someone leaning on a dial. I am not saying someone is leaning on a dial. I'm saying that is what the shape suggests. In the same minute, Leah texts that the orbital fit just updated again and that the moon pass tail is now fatter. I ask if any group is daring to forecast a range for Earth. She says no one wants their name on a wrong bowl of numbers. I respect that. We will know when someone is brave or pressured enough to write a line that says closest approach at about, and we will read it then. Hannah's hospital sends out a staff broadcast telling everyone to keep their breaks staggered and to log any personal symptoms in a separate book so they do not clog patient files. That is brilliant. That keeps the data clean and takes care of the people who always take care of us. I read the advice aloud for any other hospital staff who need permission to copy the idea. 2:09 in the morning. The emergency alert system pings again with a refined message. If you are operating heavy equipment and feel disoriented, stop and wait. If you are driving and feel dizzy, pull over safely. If you are caring for children or elderly, move to an interior room and sit. Do not crowd hospitals unless necessary. Updates to follow. That is exactly the kind of granular language people need. It matches what we have been saying here. It is good to not be alone. I promised more horror if the night earned it. Here is what horror looks like when it is real and not cinema. A mother in Penrith calls and says her 4-year-old stopped crying and stared into space for 10 seconds when the high ring peaked. Then he blinked and said his mouth felt funny. She cried after she hung up. Not because of monsters. Because the world made her child strange for a handful of seconds and she could not fix it. She sat with him on the kitchen floor and did the breath count with him, and then he wanted toast. She made toast. That is horror. Then it turns into toast. That is how you win. A man in St. Kilda sends a voice note of his partner saying she feels the floor slipping sideways when it is not. She sits. He puts a hand on her shoulder. They do the breath count. She laughs a little because saying the numbers out loud feels silly. The feeling passes. They both sound embarrassed. They have nothing to be embarrassed about. I hear my own voice smoothing out as I talk. That is a trick I picked up from a radio mentor who told me that when the audience is shaking, you downshift everything. Cadence, volume, word choice. I do not do it to lull you. I do it so you have room to breathe inside these sentences. All right. The next orbital update is the one that will live in history books if any of us get to write them. New Zealand and Perth and a European group published within the same 10-minute slab. The fits that include 4 discrete pushes and 1 longer continuous nudge all converge on a pass that is not a miss in lazy language. It is a near pass that could move objects in high orbit if the tone couples the wrong way. It is not a hit. It is not a scrape. It is a near pass with environmental effects across the whole planet. I read it twice to make sure I am not reading my fear into it. I am not. That is what the numbers say. I take a breath, and I tell you exactly what to do if the next hour is ugly. You stay inside. You move away from windows. You pick your interior room now before the tone climbs. You fill a bottle. You put snacks in arm's reach. You grab your pets and kids and sit. You do not touch the stove. You do not decide to clean the gutters. You do not climb a ladder. You do not lock yourself in a lift. You stay low and simple. You record a 30-second clip every 10 minutes if you can. Then you stop recording and you rest. Hannah texts, going into blackout mode for the ward if the tone spikes. We are fine. I type back the dumb heart and the dumber joke we always send when we are both scared. She writes, idiot, then a heart. The ward is ready. She is ready. I am ready in this room with 1 dog and a lot of gear that may or may not like what is coming. 2:20 in the morning. The narrow ring in the studio skips up 2 clean steps. No drift, just up. The contact mic trace does something I have not seen yet. It flattens, then redraws itself with new lines in new places. The window frame shakes in a way that is not violent, but is total. Every atom of metal wants to move a hair. The travel mug skates a millimeter across the desk and leaves a circle of condensation. The air feels thick without being hot. I say all that. I can hear my own voice go careful. At the same moment, the generator in the scooter shop downstairs coughs to life even though the streetlights are still on. That means the controller thinks it lost phase or saw a condition that looked like a failure. It might be a false positive. It might be the tone tricking a sensor. The roller door rattles. Someone swears softly in a language I do not speak. The generator steadies. The streetlights stay on. The world holds. Phones choke for a moment. The chat pauses. The stream dashboard freezes on my screen for a handful of seconds and then jumps. That is server-side or client-side load, not a government flicking a switch. If anyone tries to sell you that line tomorrow, remember this night. Things lag when too many people do the same thing at once. The internet is just a long pile of rooms full of loud fans. Those rooms get hot. They slow down. They recover. Leah is back. She says the labs are maxed but still recording. She says the infrasound line is at the highest level they have measured tonight without instruments clipping. She says if you are logging at home, you are doing useful work. A dozen groups will want those files later to map how this went through materials and weather. She says the fit is holding on the near pass. She does not say what her face looks like right now. I can hear it anyway. She is tired. She is scared. She is functioning. That is the job. 2:24 in the morning. The emergency alert system chirps for a 3rd time. Environmental tone will rise for short periods. If you feel unwell, sit and wait. Do not use lifts. Do not crowd streets. Secure loose objects on balconies. Keep pets inside. Remain calm. That reads like a storm warning. Good. Storm language works. People know what to do with storms. We pass into the part of the night where memory gets odd. The tone climbs and falls in slabs that stretch time. I talk. I mark times. I sip water. I promise to keep talking until I cannot. The chat breathes with me. People keep doing the little things. A bloke in Melbourne reads a book to his kids in a hallway with no windows. A woman in Cairns sings a song her grandmother taught her. Two friends in Alice Springs play a card game because they cannot sit still. The world hums and the world refuses to crack. 2:27 in the morning. The scooter shop generator cuts out and sputters back in. The mixer hum in my headphones changes notch. The window frame vibration shifts downward. The contact mic trace shows the high lines sliding toward each other. The studio clock, a cheap kitchen clock that usually loses a minute every fortnight, stops, jumps forward, then lands on the correct time. I do not know if that is the tone or a dying battery. I mark it anyway. I say the names of cities again because it helps me. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Hobart, Darwin, Canberra, Alice, Wagga, Coonabarabran, Newcastle, Wollongong, Fremantle, Tamworth, Launceston, Cairns, Townsville, Broken Hill, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. The names are a net. They catch me. 2:29 in the morning. Leah shouts into the phone for the first time tonight. Not at me, at the numbers. It moved again. Then she breathes and reports like a pro. Another push, small, the fit stays on the near pass, time window narrowed. I ask the dumb question. How near? She says a number that sits cold in my throat. I'm not going to read that number until an agency prints it. You will know soon enough. All you need right now is the shape. Near, not safe and lazy talk, not a hit. Near. The tone climbs without ceremony. No drama cue. No sci-fi chord. Just a clean rise that turns my room into a box full of tiny movements. The blind cord hums. The mug rattles. The fans stutter and then resume. Ruby barks twice and then goes quiet on command. The audio meters still show nothing. My ears feel like I'm diving without moving. I place my palms on the desk and press, because pressure feels like control. Emergency vehicles in Sydney roll. Not code everywhere, not sirens in every street, just more movement. The scanner feed reads like an ordinary Friday with a strange add-on. Balance complaint. Headache. Dizzy. Elderly male, no fall, unsteady. Crews are kind. They check vitals. They leave people sitting on couches with water and care and return to their cars. Professionals are doing professional things in a frame that none of them trained for. That is the world I want to live in. I am lucky to be in it. 2:32 in the morning. The first glass panel on my street pops. It is the old window in the stairwell above the scooter shop. It lets go with a sound like ice cracking in a drink. It does not shatter into a rain of knives. It splits and simply decides to be two pieces instead of one. The scooter guy swears again. Ruby growls. I say, stay. She stays. I keep talking. Phones lag. The chat goes thin. The dashboard freezes longer this time. Then it returns. I am aware of my heartbeat in my neck. I drink water and it sloshes in my stomach like a silly cartoon detail I would have cut from a script if a guest wrote it. Real life keeps dumb details in. That is how you know it is real. 2:34 in the morning. The tone deepens in a way I do not have a word for. It sits under the skin. It does not hurt. It feels like being watched by a wall. I hate that sentence. I keep it because anything else I try will be worse. My voice stays level because I force it to. If you are alone in a flat right now and you feel like you are going to cry for no reason, that is a reason. The world is shaking in a way that is not loud but is total. Cry if you need to, then breathe. Leah texts 3 words. Hold your nerve. I hold my nerve. 2:36 in the morning. The contact mic trace peaks and flatlines for a heartbeat, then returns with lines in a new pattern. The studio clock stops again. The mixer hum changes note. The generator downstairs dies and restarts. The streetlights flicker for the first time. Not off, just a stutter. The voltage meter droops. Then we are back. I say all of it because your head deserves the detail. This would be the place in a movie where a voice comes through the speaker and speaks in a dozen languages. That is not happening. There is no voice, no words, no message. The horror is simple. A thing we cannot model has come close enough to push our air and our walls and our nerves. It refuses to introduce itself. That refusal is its own kind of violence. It is also what real life would do if real life had the ability. The universe is under no obligation to tell us why. Hannah texts, "We are taking phones from hands gently and giving water and paper bags for breathing. People are fine after 10 minutes. Staff are fine. Stop worrying. Keep going." I sit up straighter. I keep going. 2:39 in the morning. The emergency alert goes out in capital letters for the first time. Do not use lifts. Move away from windows. Sit, breathe, wait. Then a calmer line. Shelter in place for 15 minutes. That is very specific. That means the best prediction for the past says the worst of the tone will be short. Good, we can do 15 minutes. Here is what we're going to do. I'm going to talk for as long as I can while this next crest runs over us. I will give you the simplest sentences I can. If the power goes, the battery recorder will keep rolling and this will get uploaded when it can. If we get cut, you do the list you already know. Hydrate, interior room, sit, breathe, record small, check neighbors, do not fill the roads. That is it. That is all of it. 2:41 in the morning. The tone peaks. The blind cord is a straight blur. The travel mug dances and then settles at the edge of the desk. The window frame hums in a way I can feel through my forearms. My teeth hurt for a second and then stop. Ruby whines in the bathroom and flattens herself on the tile. The generator downstairs screams and then roars steady. The board meters show nothing. The contact mic trace is an angry comb that slides up and then disappears as if someone lifted the stylus off the record. I know that is not how digital works. I do not care. That is the picture in my head. 2:42 in the morning. The street outside fills with distant car alarms that try to start and fail. One old sedan gets it right and honks for 4 beats and then goes quiet because someone learned where the fuse is and pulled it years ago. A man laughs once and then swears because the laugh was the wrong thing to do. I love him for the human error. My phone lights with the hospital label. I answer. It is Hannah. She says, "We are okay." She says it twice. Then the call drops. That is all I need. The call connected. She had breath and words. The drop means nothing. The tone takes bites out of the network. Networks recover. I put the phone down face up so it can speak again if it wants to. 2:43 in the morning. The grid drops a beat. Lights off. Mixer hum gone. Computer fans spin down. The room sounds like it has been erased. Then the UPS under the desk kicks in with a small beep and a stubborn whine, and the board returns from zero with a slow scroll of green lights. The software recorder on the laptop says it is still rolling. The tower PC is off. The internet is dead. The phone has bars and no data. I keep talking because that is the one job that does not need a packet. The tone changes in character. It is not high now. It is low and everywhere. It does not live in the ear. It lives in the sternum. I hate it. I keep my feet flat. I put one hand on the desk and one hand on the arm of the chair. I count in. I count out. I name the room. I name the building. I name the street. I name the city. That is a trick therapists teach to bring people back from panic. It works on me. I am greedy. I take any trick that works. 2:45 in the morning. The contact mic trace does not draw. The software is still open. It shows 0. The laptop's microphone, band limited and cheap, shows a smear at the very edge that pulses. The blind hangs still. The window is quiet. The travel mug is quiet. The quiet is a lie. The quiet is a surface with a wave under it. I talk because talking breaks the surface for both of us. 2:46 in the morning. The studio door shivers in the frame and then goes still. Ruby gets up and walks to me in a line that wobbles and plants her head on my knee. I put my hand on her collar. She is warm and solid. She smells like a dog bed in a long day. For one second, the idea of aliens and steps and infrasound and non-gravitational terms drops. and the world is just this room with one man and one dog trying to stay decent. The tone flicks up into the high band again. It is so clean it makes me laugh once with no humor in it. The blind cord thrums. The travel mug rattles again and falls. It hits the carpet and rolls into the cable nest. The UPS under the desk gives a warning beep that says the battery is getting tired. The tower PC is still dead. The internet is still dead. The phone still has bars and no life. I keep giving you sentences. 2:48. Leah texts, "This is it." Not poetry, not a statement of doom. A scientist calling a peak. I whisper copy to a room that does not need to hear it. I say it out loud too. This is it. Then I give you the list one last time. Hydrate. Interior room. Sit. Breathe. Record small. Check neighbors. Do not crowd streets. Wait for 15 minutes. This crest will pass. And because I promised the darker thing and did not want to drape it in fake language, I am going to tell you what is happening to me without shame. I am dizzy. I am scared. I want my wife in this room and not in a hospital across town. I want my dad not to be awake in Newcastle listening to a ceiling. I want my dog not to understand that I am pretending better than I feel. I will not run. I will not lie. I will not make you bigger or smaller than you are. You are fine. You are also not fine. Both of those can be true in the same minute. 2:49 in the morning. The tone sharpens into something that feels like a clean line pressed against the inner ear. I am not sure if I'm hearing or feeling it. The contact mic trace is still dead. The laptop mic shows a slice. The UPS drops 2 bars. The mixer flips its lights off and on but stays powered. The studio clock is wrong by a minute. The streetlight glows harder than it should and then relaxes. I keep talking. I keep talking. I keep talking. 2:50. The building gives a small pop as if worried wood decided to settle after a hot day. The generator downstairs runs like a stubborn animal in the corner of the lane. Somewhere far away, a siren chases itself through streets I cannot see. The low part of the tone begins to fall away. The high part holds. Then it softens. Then it returns in a different place. This is happening in layers. I describe each layer because there is nothing else worth doing. 2:51. The phone buzzes once. It is Hannah. 3 words. We are okay. Then a heart. Then nothing. It is enough. 2:52. The UPS whines. The board flickers. The recording software freezes for a second and then scrolls again. If this file survives, it will have skips. That is good. Skips are honest. Skips say a thing happened and we did not get to choose the shape of the record. That is true even on calm days. 2:53. The tone eases by a notch. My shoulders drop by a hair. Ruby sighs in a long breath. The blind cord hangs. The travel mug is still on the floor. The contact mic trace twitches and then draws one thin line that slides down. Leah texts a fraction that means the infrasound is dropping. She does not claim the pass is done. She says the crest is behind us. She says the labs will keep recording through the tail. I tell all of you to stay where you are for 10 more minutes. Then we will decide what to do next. 2:54. The streetlights hold steady. The generator downstairs winds down and dies. The scooter guy swears again, this time with relief in it. Someone laughs in the lane and does not feel bad about it. A plane goes overhead on a line that suggests a normal approach to the airport. The city begins to remember how to be a city. It will take time. It always does. 2:55. The internet coughs and returns for a second, then dumps me. The tower PC does not come back. The laptop does. The dashboard shows the chat slamming into the server like a wave into a seawall. It is unreadable. It is beautiful. Every message is "we are here" in different words. That is enough for me. 2:56. Emergency alert posts the last line we needed. Tone decreasing. Remain in place for 10 more minutes. Do not rush lifts or streets. Services are active. Further updates next hour. That is how adults speak. That is how I want governments to speak to me for the rest of my life. 2:57. I look at the wall of my studio and decide to say the thing you are not supposed to say because it is corny. I am proud of you. The quiet choices you made in the last half hour kept our emergency services clear and our streets open and our hospitals functional. You did that. A controlled object changed our night and you refused to make it worse. That is not nothing. That is the whole game. 2:58. I check the shared folder. New Zealand has posted a post-crest fit. It says the object is already changing posture. It is not burning out. It is leaving the worst behind. The pass is real. The recordings are real. The world did not end. We are going to have a long year untangling what this meant. It will change careers and hobbies and dinner tables. It will not break us. The only thing that ever could break us is us. 2:59. I tell you what we will do next. We will keep recording for 1 more hour and then sleep. We will send files to the labs in the morning. We will listen for credible official updates. We will ignore influencers with spiky thumbnails. We will call our parents. We will feed our pets. We will go to work if work is safe. We will go to school if school is open. We will not turn this into a religion or a war. We will let it be what it was, a pass. 3:01 in the morning. The UPS under the desk gives one long squeal. The board lights fade. The laptop screen drops to black. The room goes to the dark that lives between breaths. I speak into the dead microphone on habit. The words exist for me even if they do not for you. We are okay. I put my hand on Ruby's head. Her ears go down. Her body relaxes. 3:02. The lights do not return. The street is dark. Somewhere a siren is a thin line that curves around a corner I cannot see. The tone is almost gone. There is a faint tinnitus that might be real and might be my brain trying to hold onto a thing that has left. The studio clock is wrong by 2 minutes now. It does not matter. I will end where I started. My name is Ethan Cole. The night was very large. A visitor pushed our sky and our walls and our nerves. It did not speak. It did not ask. We handled it anyway. I will upload whatever this recorder saved when the power returns. I will call my wife. I will text my dad. I will take Ruby for a slow walk when the air feels normal. I will come back tomorrow night and do the same job again with whatever is true then. The ridge of the tone lifts once, very thin, like a test of the line it traced across the world, and then it stops. The battery recorder in my hand shows time marching. The rest of the room holds still. I am going to count down from 10 in my head, stand, and walk to the door. Then I will sit on the top step and breathe and listen to my city do the stupid small sounds of survival. That is the end of the broadcast. If it cut mid-sentence, you already know why.